2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of survival products. Despite these difficult times, My Patriot Supply has kept their commitment to you with well-stocked emergency supplies. They will deliver them quickly and discreetly with friendly 24/7 customer service. Stay alert and prepared, friends. Let everyone else take tomorrow for granted. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com.
Gentlemen, I've brought you here to discuss the Eastwood problem.
Yeah, I've been speaking with Jacinda Ardern that we need to eliminate the threat of Vinny Eastwood.
Why do you say Vinny Eastwood when it's clearly Winnie Eastwood? The Vinny Eastwood Show, live Saturday and Sunday at 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Ground Zero Plus. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and hermaphrodites. The Vinny Eastwood Show is bad news. It's like the news, but so much worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're getting exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed, man? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes. Like, they're really bad, man. Anyway.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Vinny Eastwood Show. Broadcasting live on groundzeroplus.com and also Kiwi Radio and Freedom Hub New Zealand. Thank you very much for all of those people for giving me a platform to exploit. Now, today we've got a selection of news articles and things of that nature, and the title of the show is Things Are Bad, but don't worry, they're bound to get worse. You know, it's just the way that I look at things is that the problems you see can ostensibly take over your head, where you can see nothing but problems. And you see this quite frequently in comment sections and things of that nature. People being accused of being a psyop, being accused of being an insider or a controlled opposition, so on and so on. There's remarkable amounts of suspicion towards people within the truth movement, and maybe some of the suspicion is very well founded. It's not the point, though. The point is, do you know for sure? And if you do know for sure, you probably would be reasonably less upset about it, because it's the unknown things that truly worry us. Now, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a backgrounder on this next topic that we're going to bring up, because it bears repeating. I mean, obviously we've talked about this on the show, and we have an article in here from the Bay of Plenty Times saying Greerton residents protest 5G tower near their homes. And I'd like to have a shout out to everybody in the Ground Zero Plus chat room as well, and just let them know that I'm live. Love you guys. Love you so much. Awesome for you to stick around. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the show, it is a listener-supported broadcast brought to you by you. And I'm very, very grateful for all the people that have donated. Many people have been donating for years and years and years and years. The show's been going for like 17 years at this point. Not quite legal yet. But if you go to thevinnyeastwoodshow.com and you donate through either PayPal, Patreon, or the Kiwi Bank, you get a number of different special rewards. For example, you can request a guest, you can have a private call with me, and you can get my help with your media project or idea, as well as access to the Secret Donors Club on Facebook. So please, guys, this is part of the peer-to-peer economy where I take all the risk. I make the thing and I give it away for free. And if you like it and you want to see more of it, give me a little bit of your hard-earned cash and we will continue producing the show. And it has been working day in, day out for 17 years without fail, and that is why I feel so grateful to be able to do this for a living. And when I say living, just able to survive. Okay? And this is something that one of the producers at Ground Zero told me, is that if you are unwilling to tighten your belt and live within your means, you're not going to last what's coming. You're going to close up shop and it's going to be too frustrating for you, and so you're going to fail. So I keep my costs down as much as humanly possible to try and make sure that I can continue broadcasting. And I've been doing reasonably well at it, I think. I wanted to also give a little bit of a plug to my man Billy TK. Somebody was accusing me, this guy supported Billy TK, so therefore I can't support him. Vinny's a prick. And I was like, okay, yeah, that guy's blocked. Don't even remember his name. Don't care. Probably doesn't produce anything of his own ilk. Unlike Billy, who created the River of Lies, the New Zealand Scamdemic and Investigative documentary. And episode 1 is available for free on YouTube. So all you got to do is go to riveroflies.co.nz and go and watch that incredible documentary right there. So on that note, just got to give this thing, like, if you are associated with somebody, right, apparently you support everything that they do and in no way, shape or form disagree, and you're all part of this same team and you must be getting paid to do those kind of things, all right? So this, if you're a new, what I call a young activist, all right, and young activist doesn't mean in terms of age, it has to do with mileage. How much activism have you actually done? If you've done 3/5 of F all, your opinion means very little to me. It really does. And if you have a look at, say, for example, what Billy TK did during the 2020 election, he gave a platform. He was like the one name in the country that was recognizable as speaking out against that period of time's cancerous crap that everybody had to go through. And I'm so sorry you guys all had to go through that. I've been protesting against that kind of thing since 2008. I think it was when Penny Bright, famed 40-year activist, was taking me out and telling me about the swine flu outbreak as it was happening then. And then you realise that they do some kind of little concoction every year. Hey everybody, is something to be afraid of. It's a new thing. It's Ebola, it's camel flu, it's primate anal bead blue. I don't know what they're freaking calling it now. It's just the same thing. Year after year, roundabout flu season, coincidentally enough, when people aren't getting enough vitamin D, and their immune systems become compromised, and they experience dis-ease. And their body goes into shutdown, raises its temperature in order to kill and sweat out the toxins and things of that nature that have been plaguing it that have been allowed to build up. And then eventually you come right. Unless, of course, you're about 80 years of age, which is about the life expectancy of a New Zealander, in which case it might just kill you. Right? And that's what I wanted to elucidate to people. Anybody who's like criticizing Billy TK. All right, there's things you can point to and talk about. Go right ahead. But you can't take away from the man what he actually did for the people of New Zealand. He gave out his private phone number so that people who were really stressed out, losing their homes, thinking about committing suicide. Have you ever talked to somebody like that? It's incredibly stressful. It's very painful to hear it, okay? And he subjected himself voluntarily to people's pain because he knew that just being able to talk to him would be able to help people through at least another day, right? That's the kind of guy he is. And he's always been good to me. He's always paid me when he says he was going to. And I think, I remember one time this guy called me up and... What was it, from thisquality.co.nz? I wonder if this quality is actually still around. Because that was something that I found particularly interesting. And look, this quality no longer around. This guy called me because Billy got given a big donation, and like he always does when he gets big donations, he shares it with people who've been working and helping. And in my case, he bought me a camera. And this quality douchebag gave me a call, didn't identify himself, didn't let me know that he was recording the call either, and then manipulated the call, edited it completely to make me look bad, sort of thing, and acted like I was doing something wrong by being given a camera which I would use to cover activism and events and things of that nature and still use it today. Right? What the hell is wrong with these people? Other than the fact that they're losers who can't even keep their operation going because they don't know what true care is. They don't know what doing the work is. Useless people, man. These people they don't have the brain faculty, right? Or maybe they just don't have the conscience. Or maybe they just don't have the will to go out and actually do the news and make things work and continue making them work, like myself, like Billy, who are still going, and lots of other people have come up and they've gone in these years, and good on them for giving it a go. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you're just not good enough for this business. I remember one time I was at a party at my mate's place on Waiheke, and my former boss was there from the Mud Brick Cafe, where I got fired. I got fired because I didn't turn up to work. I didn't turn up to work because they told my mate Nick to tell me what my scheduled hours were and where the board was, where those hours go. And he didn't. So, because I didn't turn up to a time when I wasn't told to turn up, I got fired. And I was talking to this guy, my boss at the, my former boss, around the fire, and he says, "Oh, you're just not cut out for this work, Vinny." It's just like, well, I'm a talk radio show host, and maybe he was right. Maybe I just wasn't cut out to wash dishes. Oh, mate. Well, we got a bunch of people already in the chat room. Sonny and SoCal, so good to see you, bro. He came over here from Ground Zero Plus, man. What an awesome dude. Always lovingly contributing to the chat rooms. And the lovely Luna Longshadow as well. Thank you so much for joining us again, darling. And Sonia Galactic and Jackie Byers as well. All of them are talking to each other. And this is the cool thing about listeners to the Vinny Eastwood show, is that they're just cool people. And I'd be remiss if I didn't also welcome Chris Callahan, who's just commented in there on the Facebook as well. Welcome, brother, welcome. So, getting on to the news of the dizzle, as Snoop would say, the Greerton Residents protest 5G towers near their homes. Now, for those of you who are actually unaware of what a 5G tower is, I forget his name. Was it Matt Stone or something? That's the guy who created the. I can't freaking remember the name off the top of my head, but he was a Scotsman who used to work in the British military making electronic weapons. And he breaks up, and he was telling us about 5G, and ostensibly, you know how what's his name, Tesla, says that everything is frequency, right? Everything, including emotions that you feel. You ever felt really depressed and demotivated? Have you ever felt so angry and enraged? You know, there's a frequency associated with that. And after the Americans imported a whole bunch of German mind control scientists after World War II under Operation Paperclip, gave them new identities and stuff like that, and gave them jobs at the Central Intelligence Agency, which is plugged into all the other agencies in some way, shape or form, allowing the Nazis to take over America as if it hadn't taken it over already, as opposed to the, the Trading with the Enemy Act, which the grandfather of George W. Bush, Prescott Bush, actually was implicated in giving large amounts of supplies to the Third Reich, and didn't go to jail for it. Right? Why is that? And what's his name? Major General Smedley Butler. I think he was one of the only people in U.S. history of the armed services to win 2 Medals of Honor. It's extremely difficult to get one. You have to do something very foolhardy. He was actually hired by the elites who were going to take over America. All right? And they wanted him to come up with the plan, militarily, of how to take over America during World War II. And he came before the Joint Committee to tell them what he knew about the plans to set up a fascist dictatorship in America. Isn't that interesting? And then, of course, right after World War II, they import all these Nazi scientists and from their mind control programs, which was called MK, which stood for mind control. All right? And in these experiments in MK Ultra, they went through the list of frequencies for your emotional states. You know, they had electrodes in the brain, you know, like a big cap with all these little things drilled into their skulls. And when they were experiencing emotions, they would be able to tell what frequency it was. And then they could replicate that frequency and pump it into the brain, and the brain would start to feel that emotion. 5G towers can do that. They've got built into them the ability to manipulate your emotional state. And greetings all, says Mark David. Thank you for joining us, brother. And Le Matafa as well. Thank you so much for joining us too. So in this article here, Waimapu Street residents are upset about a proposed 5G tower meters from their homes, and also remember that this gives off what's known as dirty electricity. Okay, and the same thing happens in your home. That's why when I go to sleep, I make sure all the outlets and everything like that are off in my room, and Wi-Fi is off, and the phone is not in the room. Generally speaking, sometimes I need it for an alarm, but generally not. I just wake up as I normally do, quite early, and this lower frequency vibration, okay, is known to be carcinogenic, known to cause depression, known to cause insomnia, nosebleeds. If you've got, like, for example, those Wi-Fi meters on your home that measure your electricity usage, they call them smart meters, and if anything says smart, like a smartphone, smart car, smart politician, you know, they're just bad news, and you really don't want to get your hands on them to a large degree. You want to avoid them where possible. Now, that's when these things are like meters from their homes in this small New Zealand town. They say they received little communication from Connexa, with only 8 people getting a notice. And this is another way that they do things. Like, for example, essential services. During the lockdowns, one of those quote-unquote essential services was putting up new 5G towers. Right? As in, oh my God, everybody's dying. We definitely need 5G, bro. I mean, that's going to help us with it, right? You know? Bastards. Residents want the tower relocated to a nearby industrial area, citing health and safety concerns. And there's probably quite a lot of those health and safety concerns to a large degree, isn't it? A proposed tower meters from a retired couple's house has angered Waimapu Street residents in Greerton. They say they received little communication about its installation, and the street first received official notice from Connexa, the company responsible for building the tower, on March 12th, with the letter dated March 4th. Resident Mike Coxon said only 8 people received a letter, and Connexa told Sun Media it wrote to 25 households and that cell towers had to meet strict safety standards. You know what the strict safety standard in New Zealand is? All right, milligauss. Okay, these are the devices that you measure electromagnetic radiation, wireless pollution, stuff like that. It's measured in milligauss. Now, the safety standards. They said safety standards, and man, that just... It's saying that if it doesn't burn you or cook you, then it's safe. Okay? I had Paul Waddell from safespace.net.nz in this office a number of years ago, and he checked it out, and I was at like 300, 400 milligauss, which is huge. Like you want to ideally have it under 4 milligauss, and each item that you have is basically like a stacker. Okay, so let's say you've got a computer that is connected to Wi-Fi. That's 30,000. And not including the Wi-Fi router as well, that's another 30,000. Let's say you've got a wireless keyboard, that's another 30,000 milligauss. And wireless mouse, that's another 30,000 milligauss. So just with one computer, okay, with all of the wireless stuff that you use, you're getting like between 90 and 120,000 milligauss. But you can only measure up to 30,000 milligauss because they only pick up and transpose over the top of each other. Okay, they don't stack per se, but the effect on your cells does stack. Now, a lot of people can't feel these frequencies, but some people can. They're called the electrosensitive. About 3% of the population can. I remember one time we went to a anti-5G meeting at the council, and I was trying to upload the video afterwards, and the second I turned my phone on to data share so that I could actually upload the video of the meeting that I just filmed, the woman next to me started getting a headache. Immediately, just like that. Where are these people going to go? Where are they going to live? If the second that anybody's even got so much as a cell phone on near them, they get horrific migraines. Right? You see what I'm saying? And this guy... this counsellor, I forget his name. I've been forgetting a lot of people's names lately because, I don't know, I only remember things that I think are important. And this guy, I was there before the meeting started, significantly early, unfortunately, that was my bad. And he says, "Oh, what do you think about this G5 thing?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what I think about the G5 thing, but I know what I think about the 5G thing." And he goes, "Oh, the smart ass, eh?" And I go, "Yeah, well, I found it infinitely more useful than being a dumbass." And the other counsellors laughed at him. I came up, just tapped him lightly on the shoulder. "Sorry, mate, talk radio show host with 10 years experience. You're ill prepared for this fight." And back to the article. It's just the kind of the thing that these ignorances. All right. Now, what is the New Zealand safety standard? I talked about 30,000 milligauss. That's just one wireless mouse, one wireless keyboard, or something like that. They all give off about 30,000 milligauss, or at least they did when we tested them. The New Zealand safety standard, wait for it, is 1 million milligauss. If it's under 1 million, you're safe. Oh my gosh! Oh my god! Oh man! Why? And people wonder why there's so many people with. I wonder how many things can actually get caused by radiation, you ask? Well, it's actually like 187 different illnesses, which are the same kind of illnesses that you get from radiation. All right, like nuclear radiation, right? If you're exposed to that, or if you're exposed to Wi-Fi, you can get the same kind of diseases. And because there's 187 of them, people won't know and be able to immediately direct it towards this electromagnetic wireless pollution, will they? Okay? Oh, you've got this, you've got that, 187 different diseases that people are coming in and they don't know what causes it. I do. People in the know do. And this is why these residents might be a little bit upset that something that's giving off safe frequencies is being set up meters from their home when they're trying to sleep. Right? When you try to sleep, you know how you got the hairs on your arm? Okay? If those hairs are exposed to light, your brain doesn't go to sleep properly. Okay? And Wi-Fi gets interpreted by the hairs on your arm as light. So if you've got it going while you're trying to sleep, you won't be able to sleep properly. You'll wake up feeling kind of tired. You might need 3 coffees to wake up that day. It's not good, man. It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. The proposed tower will be close to the living room of one house, Coxon said. We're talking 8 meters from the berm to the lounge. Now, the other thing I remember Paul Waddell telling me about this was if you're within, I think it's 10 meters or something of a cell phone, it's like being within 100 meters of a cell phone tower. Right? Something like that. Quite significantly detrimental to your health, cell phones are. And you see people like, are you using your Bluetooth speaker right now? No? Then turn the Bluetooth off of your phone. Are you using your data right now? No? Then turn the data off of your phone. You know, are you expecting any calls? Are you making any calls? Are you connected to Wi-Fi? Then just put it on flight mode with Wi-Fi. You know, you can do that. Because, again, each of those little things, each of those 4 little settings on your phone gives off 30,000 frickin' milligauss, and it's in your frickin' hand. All right? Oh, sorry, it's within 2 meters. If you've got a cell phone within 2 meters of you, it's like being sitting 100 meters from a cell phone tower. All right, they're actually really quite powerful when you think about it, and that's not that great. There are also health and safety concerns with the installation of the tower being so close to residents' houses, resident Claire Hayes said. What is the impact of these towers being so close to people's homes? Hayes and the residents were not opposed to 5G and tower installation, but just want the tower to go somewhere else. They don't want the tower relocated to another unsuspecting street, but somewhere like the nearby Greerton industrial area along State Highway 29 and Oropi Road. Now, what's interesting about this is that 5G is short range. Relatively short range, and it's not short range necessarily because it can't, broadcast over the things, but it doesn't penetrate through solid matter terribly well as, for example, 4G, and this can make it a little bit difficult for people. And many residents around Auckland were wondering why the council was basically like slash and burn, just cutting down big old trees and things of that nature, to make way for these 5G towers, because those trees had foliage that got in the way of people's signals. Right? So if you're in a place that is surrounded by trees, the chance that you'll get a very strong 5G signal is fairly remote. Right? You're not going to get 4 or 5 freaking bars there, darling. The tower would be on a blind corner if it were to be installed at its current location, and would be at the end of a span of road containing multiple driveways, she said. Member of Parliament for Tauranga, Sam Uffendale, said he had received correspondence from concerned residents about the tower's placement in Greerton. I can understand their concerns. Very few people want a large tower outside their home. And why not? Is it just because of the visual pollution? Is it just ugly? Or is it because you're being slow roasted alive? The cell site on Waimapu Street will replace a street light in the road reserve designated for infrastructure such as power, water, sewage, fire cables and cell sites. Connex's planning and engagement lead Fiona Matthews said in an email, the location, meets the planning rules, and it is within the search ring to provide the necessary capacity and coverage for the community. Now, why do they need so much data? All right, so what are you getting, like 100 megasecond or something up or down when you've got 4G going, whereas with 5G you can have gigabytes a second, like up to 5 gigabytes a second. It's ridiculous amount, right? You could download a complete movie, in HD in like 10 seconds, maybe less. Right, depending on your connectivity and the traffic and how close you are to the exchange. But regardless, it's still a huge amount of data that can be sent. Why do they need that amount of data, you wonder? Nobody does. Not for commercial application, not for residential application, certainly not. But if you're talking about a New World Order global government surveillance, you're going to need that amount of data. Where is everybody right now? What is everybody doing? What is everybody looking at? What is everybody thinking? What is everybody feeling? Imagine if you had a grand network that is worldwide that can literally interpret people's feelings by reading the frequencies that are coming off of their heads or some crap like that. I'm not saying that that's what the 5G towers sort of do, but just think sci-fi for a little bit and you'll sort of get the generalized idea. A complete control grid. That's why they need to be everywhere, these towers. That's why they're such a priority to get up, because the amount of data that you need to be collecting on a daily basis of the slaves on the global plantation is freaking enormous. So enormous, in fact, that the United States, with the amount of data that they were collecting, were causing brownouts in certain cities because the data banks where they were storing all this information were drawing so much power that people's lights were flickering on and off just from the amount of surveillance data that's being collected. You understand? It's freaking insane. Alternative sites were considered, but found unsuitable. Were they? Maybe because there weren't enough people to surveil there. Maybe because there were too many trees in the way. Something like this. Imagine for a moment that you had an agenda to make everybody sleep deprived and sick. And wouldn't these 5G towers help an awful lot with that? Just on the health thing, not even counting the surveillance. Matthews said the intersection of Fraser Street, Chadwick Street and Oropi Street along with Pemberton Park was investigated as alternative locations, and the location of Waimapu Street was able to meet all of the criteria. All right? And they've got that kind of thing with it here. What are their criteria? What are the criteria that they publicly disclosed versus the criteria that are privately disclosed, right? As in intelligence agencies, what do they want? What do they have to do? Because you have to filter down things. This is the thing that people don't understand about how conspiracy works. And G. Edward Griffin, is he still alive? I certainly hope so. He's so freaking awesome. He talked about this concept of rings within rings within rings. Okay, so if you're the top guy, and you wanted to have some kind of conspiracy going on, you would get a whole bunch of other people together in a ring, and you would tell each of them that this is the top tier. We are the ones that control everything. And then tell each of those people to go out. Let's say there's 13 people at the table. And to tell each of those 13 people to go out and get 13 people of their own. And to tell them that they're at the top of the ring. And then, out of those 13 people and 13 people and 13 people, you get 13 more to go around and do the bottom ring, the 3 rings. So this way, all the people that are members of these rings, including the top ring, don't actually know that they're not the top ring. They think they're the ones controlling everything. And so this way, they can wind up implementing all of the procedures that are being cast down from the very top echelons. This is how you keep conspiracies working. All right? The key there is working. If a conspiracy doesn't work, that's because you are too direct. You know, you've got to be below the radar. You have to be getting people to follow your orders without them knowing that they're being given orders by you, or that they're even being given orders at all. That would be the ideal. She said the company wrote to properties within a 50-metre radius of the cell site. Remember what I said about 100-metre radius of a cell site not being really that great for you, including being within 2 metres of a cell phone. Connexa wrote to 25 property addresses. We have received inquiries from 4 properties. Thousands of cell sites are in road reserves outside residential properties throughout the country, alongside power lines, street lights, bus shelters, and other critical infrastructure, Matthews said. It's almost like really great for surveilling everything that goes on in a society, isn't it? Along all the critical infrastructure. The cell site equipment, and by the way, Huawei Communications, the ones that actually built the backbone for New Zealand's communication networks and what's it called, fiber optic cables and things of that nature, is a Chinese company. A Chinese company that is linked implicitly with the PLA. What's the PLA? It's Chinese for CIA. Okay, that's what they do. They are the Chinese People's Liberation Army Intelligence. And they own companies. They have shares in companies, just like the CIA does, because they want to take over countries. And when Huawei Communications put up a bid for the contract to install New Zealand's telecommunications backbone of its network, every single intelligence analyst and commentator in the freaking country tried to contact the then Prime Minister and now Sir John Key, who is a former Federal Reserve banker at the Bank of New York, who in charge of derivatives trade, which caused the 2008 financial crisis, to say, don't do it, John. These guys are with the Chinese CIA. They're going to build a backbone into our network and backdoors into everything, and they're going to be able to surveil us completely. And if anything happens that they don't like, they could potentially shut down everything. They could shut down our internet. They could shut down our power grid. They could shut down our water supplies. They would have us by the balls, John. And Johnny Boy went, no, she'll be right. And just let them install it. So that's the network that we're dealing with right now, ladies and gentlemen. You know, Vinny Eastwood wonders why he can get deplatformed so immediately. And the article continues, the cell site equipment could not be hidden like power or fiber optic cables. Interesting the segue that I just did there, isn't it? So Connexa attempted to minimise visual impacts when possible, Matthews said. Cell towers in New Zealand follow strict safety standards set by the Ministry of Health. That's right, 1 million frickin' milligauss that you can be exposed to. So that, we're just going to make sure that you don't get cooked. cell towers and this kind of thing are, I don't know, maybe they're a visual menace or something like that. In the United States, they've gone pretty well overboard. Like, you know how you've got those big cacti on the sides of the freeway and stuff like that when you're going through desert states? Some of them ain't cacti. They are disguised cell phone towers. Some of those trees ain't trees. They're disguised cell phone towers. They're really trying to keep it hidden from you. Why? She said the radio waves used for mobile devices are based on technology in use for over 100 years. And just remember that this has been one of the most rocky 100 years in human freaking history. Low emissions involved Wi-Fi, AM and FM radio, television broadcasting, cordless phones, radio-controlled toys and baby monitors, all of which emit large amounts of EMF radiation. That's right. If you've got a baby monitor on so that you're able to get out of the room and be able to tell that your baby's crying when you're not in the room, you are sitting there irradiating your baby. Okay? And because they've got very thin skulls, it penetrates all the way into their brain and can give them disorders. You know, people say there's ADHD or autism or whatever the hell. It's basically cooking your baby's brains. And in the case of their sexual organs, you know how girls, they have all of their eggs for procreation from birth, you're irradiating all of those as well. So that means that potentially she might never be able to have a child or never be able to have a healthy child. Okay? Because she was getting cooked by her baby monitor while she was a little baby herself. You see? That's something that people need to really factor in when you talk about these things going, oh, we've got environmental standards, we do. Really? Do you now? And those are low emissions, right? Those are the ones that are under 1 million. Save me from the knowledge I've accumulated from people who are much smarter and much harder working than me, and I still have to frickin' deal with the fact that I know these things. I know that you guys get that, because you know so much, don't you? You've done so much research, you've listened to so many podcasts, watch a huge amount of documentaries and YouTube videos explaining about the fabric of the universe and everything. It's killer. The amount of knowledge you have is like extraordinary by comparison to the average person who knows an awful lot about sports statistics, but bugger all else. Save me from this country's sports culture. And I know the people in the United States know what I'm talking about too. You know, all these people with their freaking fantasy football and whatnot. Lord save me. The Resource Management Act covers the National Environmental Standards for Telecommunications Facilities, which allows the use of the road reserve for mobile network infrastructure. Each district council plan sets the rules for governing the height and position of mobile infrastructure, Matthews said. And you know how they do that? They do that by using the Delphi technique. What's the Delphi technique, Vinny? Well, that's when I'm going to give you 3 options. All right? I'm going to rape you, murder you, or make you bankrupt. Okay, which option do you want? Well, I don't really want any of them. Well, you got to pick one. That's the Delphi technique, guys. All right, that's how it works. The council gives their people 3 horrible options that nobody wants. And because they get to pick which horrible option it is, they feel like they've been given some kind of a choice. When you haven't been given a choice, it's all a frickin' pre-planned agenda. Now, the anti-Delphi technique, pioneered by the lovely, and may she rest in peace, she was such a wonderful woman, Rosa Corey, who wrote UN Agenda 21 Behind the Green Marsh. She told me, Vinny, Agenda 21 is the conspiracy. And people might say, oh, but they've got Agenda 2030 now and Agenda 2050. She goes, no. Those are just milestones on the way to Agenda 21, which is by the year 2099, they want to have Agenda 21 fully implemented and completely and utterly irresistible. She came up with the anti-Delphi technique. When you're in these meetings, and you've come with a bunch of friends, and you've all got your little signs and things like that, are you able to control the meeting? No, you're not. Why not? Well, because you're in a group. You're easily to dismiss as a bunch of nutters. And therefore, the council can just, when that group speaks up, tell you to shut up. And there won't be anybody else in the rest of the place that sticks up for you because you all came together. If, on the other hand, you all arrived separately, not carrying signs or anything of that nature, and then when the council meeting starts proposing things that you don't like, you have sat as far apart from each other as you possibly can. And then the first person in the front left corner of the room stands up and asks a question. That person will inevitably get shouted down. Yes, they will. But that's when the next person in the far right corner at the front stands up and says, "You haven't answered that gentleman's question. I'd like to hear the answer." And then that person gets shouted down. And then in the rear left-hand corner, somebody stands up and says, hey, you're shouting these people down. I want to hear an answer to the question too. And before you know it, the council has lost control of the meeting. Because it looks like the whole crowd of completely independent-minded people are freaking against them. And it derails their plans. And they have to do them again and again and again. Rosa and groups of people, very small amount of people, can delay $1 billion of plans practically indefinitely using this technique just by showing up and doing the work. It's significant. But of course, most people don't know about the anti-Delphi technique, so instead of deploying that measure, which is very effective, they will ask and they will maybe protest and so on and so forth, which has limited effectiveness, to say the best. It's better than doing nothing, mind you, and anybody who does something that isn't nothing, I applaud. Good on you guys. Good on you. Keep the spirit alive. The National Resource Management Act covers the national environmental standards for telecommunications facilities, which allows the use of the road reserve for mobile network infrastructure. Each district council plan sets the rules governing those things. The Tauranga district plan permits poles up to 26 metres in height for cell sites. Matthew said that pole and cabinets are positioned 1,500 millimetres from the curb and that the council must assess the site location for road safety. Quote, council provided no special conditions to Connexa within the relevant statutory timeframe. The General Manager of Regulatory and Compliance at Tauranga City Council, Sarah Omunzin, said in an email that Connexa is solely responsible for where the towers are to be sited. Okay, just giving a private corporation free rein to do everything that they want to without any real oversight. And so that when this is what fascism is. Okay? When I think I said this on last night's show as well. Benito Mussolini, the dictator, the El Duce, as he was known, or El Duce in the modern context, he said that fascism could be more correctly termed corporatism, because it's when the corporations take over the state, that's fascism. And that's what they're doing. That's what Agenda 21 is all about. It's about making corporations basically take over your city councils and not be regulated by them. Telcos decide on the most appropriate sites for infrastructure to be placed. And not to mention the fact that these telcos, standing for, of course, a telecommunication corporation, are members of various groups in New Zealand that actually control the country. Okay, I say actually control the country because if you've ever heard of Infrastructure New Zealand, you haven't, had you? Have you heard of the Committee for Auckland? You haven't, had you? Okay, well, why is this? Why am I talking about these groups? Well, they have a membership fee of like $10,000 in order to get your corporation or your individual person into that group. And what they do is for lack of a better word, tell people what to do and implement Agenda 21. These are the biggest corporations in the world, like Vodafone, Google. In New Zealand, we've got Fletcher buildings and stuff like that. And a lot of these companies are actually partially owned by the government as well. And so the CEOs of all these major corporations turn up to these meetings, where they basically decide what the rollout for infrastructure is going to be in any given day or any given year, without any actual official oversight by the public, who can't afford, generally speaking, a $10,000 fee just to go to meetings. Okay? Now, the national standards allowed equipment such as cabinets and antennas to be located at the roadside, although they limit the number and size permitted, Munson said. Resource consent for a tower may be required, for example, where the proposed infrastructure does not meet national standards, she said. However, in those instances, the council has limited ability to decline or require changes to the proposal. The residents of Maimapu Street have launched a petition to gain more support. So I'm going to actually copy the link address for that petition. I'm going to pop it in the chats for everybody here, so that you guys can go and sign that petition to help. And the man of the hour, Billy TK, is in the chat room as well. Hey, brother. I was actually just talking about you earlier on in the show, because I had somebody saying that they can't trust me because I'm a dickhead because I supported you. And I know what you're going to say. But don't worry, I already said it all. Look at what Billy has done. Look at what these people who don't trust Billy have done. They've done 3/5 of F4. And so therefore their opinion really just doesn't matter, and they should just get on with doing the work and making the world a better place, instead of attacking all the people who are actually doing that. Next article, hands off. Anti-Trump Americans flood Washington. Protesters hold signs as they march during the nationwide hands-off protest against Trump and his advisor, Tesla CEO Elon Musk, in downtown Los Angeles on April 5th, 2025. And I believe one of my colleagues in the United States calls it Commifornia. I think it was Mario West who enlightened me as that term. Come to Commifornia. And Amos777 is in the chat room. Love you, bro. Thank you so much for coming and seeing me when you came to New Zealand, man. It was freaking awesome. And DK as well was also all right. Now, we have an article to continue going at it. This is by Michael Mathis of the AFP. When Liz Gabbard has joined thousands of fellow protesters Saturday in the US Capitol, she thought her message to the Trump administration would be best delivered through her homemade sign, a cardboard guillotine. The 34-year-old librarian made sure that she does not advocate violence, but nevertheless insisted that her 1 meter sign, complete with tinfoil blade, communicated the visual language of revolutionary fervor she longed for less than 3 months into Donald Trump's presidency. And if you've got a whole bunch of communists, the only thing that they want is revolution. Okay, they don't want fair elections. Okay, and I noticed this when I was a young activist, like before I had my experience. Before I knew what socialism was, I was helping out all of these people because they were protesting the right-wing government of John Key. Why are they protesting the right-wing government? Because they're left-wing. That's it. Okay? It isn't necessarily anything that they disagreed with or whatever, And this amount of protesting, have a look at all the tyrannical measures that happened under John Key, search and surveillance bill, the shipping, so on and so forth. There was like a whole raft of things that he did. He got the country into over $100 billion in debt, up from $8 billion. And then added on to that another $112 billion of off-the-shore derivatives debt. All right? It was just unbelievable. Just sunk the country into the hands of the bankers, and then he gets rewarded with a knighthood. And then he comes out, and a left-wing government comes in. and does the exact same type of things, if not worse. And instead of like record amount of protesting going on from all these left-wingers, they're just like, yay, our team's winning. That's when I knew. That's when I knew about the My Truth movement, about the My Freedom movement. It's like, no. There is truth. There is freedom. You and what you want don't change that. Mankind needs truth. Mankind needs freedom. And we have to fight for it. So what happens is when all you left-wingers just stop protesting and stuff like that because, we've now got a left-wing government, so we've got nothing to protest against. No. You should be able to, as they say in the bathroom, follow through, right? There's maybe that was not a great analogy. But anyway, continuing on with the article, it's easy to be overwhelmed with all the horrible things going on. Under Trump's leadership, she told AFP at the base of the Washington Monument, just blocks from the White House. And of course, you look at this building here, all right, in St. Paul, Minnesota, and it looks kind of like the Vatican, doesn't it? Interesting. Quote, I'm worried that the separation of powers is dissolving, she added, noting Trump's dramatic expansion of executive authority. I do not worry that people get into the trap of feeling like, well, there's nothing I can do. Americans were taking action all around her. However, on the biggest day of national hands-off protests since Trump returned to power, hand-scrawled resist signs poked up from the crowd, which organizers said amounted to more than 20,000 people. Why is this an important thing to note? Probably because all these people were not out protesting Biden. And more to the point, as I alluded to earlier, there are a whole bunch of Trump supporters in the My Truth movement and My Freedom movement who don't see anything wrong with anything Trump does because he's their guy. All right, we're in power now. We don't have to protest. We don't have to, stand up for liberty or any of those things that Americans are supposed to do as their patriotic duty because you won an election. An election that was highly televised and well-funded. Right? And so now you're okay. Now he can sign more executive orders than any president in history. And you're happy with that, aren't you? The My Truthers. The My Freedomers. You have no idea. And just as these left-wingers probably have absolutely no idea. That's how they get you. That's how they keep you enclosed in the cattle sphere. And Amos has just given us a super chat. I'd like to see if we can get $20. Yeah, $20 for this show, guys. If you guys want to go onto YouTube and go at the @Vinny Eastwood YouTube channel and see if you can give us a wee super chat to help support the broadcast today. Let's try and raise $20 today. We've already got $7.77. Let's try and nearly triple that and get us $20 in super chats today. That's the goal for today. And thank you, Amos, for getting the ball rolling, brother. Some protesters, dressed in the red cloaks of The Handmaid's Tale, a popular novel and TV series about a totalitarian society. Others carried American flags upside down, traditionally a symbol of distress or danger to the country's liberties. You did not see this coming, screamed a sign. And that's the other thing about the leftists, is that as far as they're concerned, anybody who opposes them is a Nazi. Okay? Why is that? Well, because the communists were very, very much opposed to the Nazis in Germany pre-World War II when they were running for elections. Okay? Now, what happened there was, of course, the communists lost that fight. It was two branches of socialism: national socialism and global socialism. Fascism is national socialism, and globalism is the communism. Okay? And so there's two kinds of ideologies. We want to take everybody over by force, and we want to do it real quick, and like make it. And the other one is, no, let's do it slowly, gently, and get everybody under our wing and make everything happen the way we want it to, until such a time as people can no longer resist us at all, and we've got all of you captured. That's what communism is about. The Fabian Socialist Society, their literal logo is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Okay? Their other logo is a tortoise carrying a hammer. You've heard of the tortoise and the hare, right? You're the hare. You thought you were free. You thought you were fine. You thought everything was going to work out all right. And so you took a nap under a tree. But the tortoise just kept on creeping until the point where he's at the finish line with his hammer, and then just whack, and then boom, you got nothing left. All right, this is their ideology. This is how they work, and so I'm personally, I wouldn't say I'm unsure about what to think about the Trump presidency, because I wrote an article called "Congratulations, Order Followers. Trump's cabinet is full of New World Order frontmen and dark occultists." All right, I wrote that 3 days after he announced his cabinet, when he first got elected. How did I do that? Well, I did this thing that apparently nobody in the widely circulated alternative media is capable of doing. I Googled. Okay? Seriously, if you're looking at Alex Jones or Gary Franchi or any of these other guys, they apparently didn't know what Google was or what it can do, even though they were the people who taught me about all these secret roundtable groups like the Council of National Policy or Council on Foreign Relations or Trilateral Commission or the Freemasons. Even though they were the people who taught me about these organizations being the ones really in control of America, they apparently didn't know how to use Google to figure out which members of the cabinet belong to which groups. I did that. Okay? Here's the person's name plus Trilateral Commission. Boom, there's a hit. Same person's name plus Council on Foreign Relations. Boom, there's another hit. They're a member of both groups. Person's name plus Freemasons. Boom, another way. That's three groups. Almost every single member of his hand-picked cabinet belonged to one, if not multiple, of the globalist groups and clubs that truly run America. This is the person, Trump, who the majority of the truth movement was absolutely sold on. He was going to save us. You frickin' idiots. If you fell for it, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to call you an idiot. But you are. An idiot means somebody who's got no interest in politics. That's one of the actual definitions of it. And if you don't understand politics as being controlled by these secretive globalist groups and clubs, that makes you an idiot, because you're not actually interested in finding out what actually runs things. That is a fact. And I'm sorry to elucidate to you that in such a disturbing manner. Okay? You can get offended if you like. Go right ahead. It doesn't change the facts. Bob Dylan's protest classic Masters of War oozed from a portable speaker. Larger-than-life papier-mâché model of Elon Musk, the billionaire whom Trump has tasked with slashing the federal workforce, cast a fascist salute. Because of Trump and Elon and DOGE, my project died and I was laid off, says Annette, a 39-year-old from Oregon, probably from Portland, which is another communist center of the United States, who recently lost her government contractor job in international development. international development, a communist doing international development. How does the system work? You see? While she fears a collapse in US-funded humanitarian work worldwide, and by humanitarian work, what they mean is they're actually going to go into these places where there are humanitarian crises, where there's lots of orphans and broken up families and people in distress, so that they can traffic their children and have a cover. Okay? Oh, we're here handing out aid. Oh, okay. Well, how come you've got all of those white panel vans that you've brought in there? Are they delivering the aid? Yeah, they're absolutely delivering the aid. This is crisis management. You got to love that stuff. Quote, I'm really heartened to see so many people out here, she said. This is not enough. Congress needs to get off their asses, I think. Yeah, you're actually thinking, are you? Right. Unfortunately, I feel this in my heart that people aren't going to come out until it hurts them personally somehow. That's the reason why you and I are conspiracy theorists, ladies and gentlemen. And Sonny in SoCal just sent us $5. Thank you so much, Sonny. Love that, man. Thank you. And he says, stay strong, your voice is important. Oh, thank you, brother. All right, so what are we up to? That's 5 plus 7. It's like nearly $13 we got so far. So another $7 to go, ladies and gentlemen, before we reach our goal for $20 for this broadcast. Hell, what have we got? We got about 51 minutes left in the broadcast today. So let's hope we can get that, if not beat it. Protesters hold up signs during the nationwide hands. We are not paid, we are pissed. No kings, no felons, as in F. Elons. I like that. Dump Trump, respect human rights. Anybody who believes in government doesn't believe in human rights, all right? The human right to not be stolen from. Okay, that's actual a human right, you know. People shouldn't be able to just steal stuff from you. And the government steals from you all the time. All the time. It's called taxation without representation, right? They don't tell you where that tax money's going, because if they did, they would tell you that it's going to pay off the interest to the foreign banks who make the money up out of thin air, like the government could, but without charging you interest. You see? That's why they tax you. That's why when the Federal Reserve Act was instituted at the same time in 1913, they also started up the IRS at the same time to steal that money that they were creating out of thin air from you. All right, and then borrow based on your birth certificates. All right, you became a registered stock receipt. Okay, otherwise known as livestock. That's what you are, guys. Okay, they've got this wonderful little message for you here, and they can get you born, birthed, just like a ship at a dock gets birthed. You see how that works? And then they can make anything go, right? Because they own your ass. They literally own you. Like Carlin said, they own everything. And this is how they do it. They do it with paperwork. They do it with word trickery. Okay, words are magic. Okay, that's why it's called spelling. They are casting a spell upon you. And coup by oligarchs. Half a mile away, Shelley Townley and her husband made their way past the White House, provocatively holding an upside-down American flag and a sign reading, "Stop the Musk coup." I feel sad, Townley, a 62-year-old from North Carolina, told AFP. This is the first time I've walked by here without crying. Mind control is big in the United States. I'm starting to feel like... Is there anybody who actually has their own, mind under their own control? I've been starting to think actually quite a lot lately. That was one of my jokes back in the day is, how do you know if you're under mind control? If you don't think you are. Because then it's working, isn't it? And these people have an emotional imbalance. Okay, so... part of the brain governs our emotions, part of it governs our thoughts, and part of it governs our actions. Okay, the mammalian, the prefrontal, and the reptilian cortexes of the brain. Right, these govern certain things. Now, if you are trying to make a logical assessment with your mammalian cortex that does your emotional thinking, is it really logical at all? No, you're making an emotional decision. That's what is happening here. This is how mind control works, so that the logical part of your brain gets turned off and the emotional part of your brain gets turned on. So that way you're thinking out of fear or thinking out of love. Oh, I love this president so much. I would want to name my firstborn children after him or something. Is this person being logical? Or have they been mind controlled and had their emotions corrupted by successive techniques to do so? You see? I believe we're under a coup right now by oligarchs, which, to my much to my dismay, the checks and balances of our government are disintegrating, she added. Okay. The coup happened long ago. Okay. 1913, I think that's pretty much it. As soon as they had the Federal Reserve Act, as soon as they had the Federal Reserve Bank, which is about as Federal Express, they say, the oligarchs had already staged a coup, and they already owned you. So any of these mechanisms that people are protesting now in terms of control, they may be failing to see the bigger picture here. They may be failing to see the historical context behind the enslavement of American citizens by ruthless, criminal, sociopathic, scumbaggery oligarchy. Okay? Maybe they're just missing the point. You see? Even though Trump was away in Florida, Townley found herself looking at the White House through tall metal fencing erected ahead of the rally, which they always do at protests, generally speaking. And I love this person with their sign up, "Hands off our democracy." The United States is not a democracy, and anybody who says it is not a real American. All right, it may sound funny coming from a New Zealander, but I know more about Americans than most Americans do. Okay? And that's not really saying that much. And that's not me saying that either. That was my American producer, Mitch Santel, saying that. You don't have a democracy in America. You never did. It was founded as a republic. A democracy is when two wolves and a sheep vote over what's for dinner. A republic is when the sheep has a gun. Okay? Don't tread on me. Any of these things ringing a bell, my wonderful American fellows out there. This is not a democracy, never was, never should have been, and they've popularized this term to corrupt the essence of what keeps people's freedoms in a republic. That's what's problematic about it. I wish, instead of being at a golf tournament at Mar-a-Lago, that he was in there and could see what was happening out here, and that the people are out here opposing his policies, she said. Okay, now, did you know that you can't insult a psychopath? Which Trump is. Okay, what are you doing about Vinny? He's not a psychopath. Yes he is. He's a complete narcissistic psychopath. I know that, because one of the world's leading experts on narcissism and psychopathy, Dr. Sam Vaknin, was on this show, and he frickin' told me. All right? He was so sure of it, in point of fact, that he predicted that Trump would win the election 3 months before even announcing his candidacy. How did he know that? How did he know Trump would run? How did he know Trump would win after running? Well, because the population of the United States is so narcissistic and psychopathic in general that he would be the only person who would accurately represent their interests. Doesn't that make you feel sick to your stomach? That the quote-unquote greatest nation of the world is now infected with a mental disease that causes pain and suffering to almost everybody who's exposed to it? A disease that, if you're infected by it, means that you're immune to criticism. Okay? You literally operate under a delusion of a false, perfect self. And anybody who says anything to you about your imperfection, you immediately reject it because you can't actually look at yourself objectively. That's how mental these people are. And that is your president. Americans. That's your president. A person with a disorder like that. So when these protesters are going out saying, oh, but we're out here, we're opposing your policies, he doesn't care. He doesn't care because he chooses not to. He doesn't because he can't. He physically can't care what your criticism of him is. All right? Why do you think these people are so successful? And why all these people with a conscience are not quite as successful? It's because when you get criticized, it hurts you. It hurts your feelings. It hurts my feelings when I get criticized sometimes, right? Because I don't have a false self-image. I am actually working on myself, as we all are. And what's problematic about this is that, as I've said many times before, the problem with somebody who has a conscience is that they do not have the ability to imagine what somebody who doesn't have a conscience thinks or will do. Okay? We're at a significant disadvantage here, guys, in terms of, evolution. All right? These people are actually believe, and there's quite a lot of evidence to suggest that they might be right, that they're more evolved than us. They got let go of conscience, and they got let go of morality, they got let go of guilt. Okay? Do you have any idea what you're capable of if you're not constrained by those things? The things that you can do and will do and have no, personal comeuppance. If I do something bad or you do something bad and it hurts somebody and we see the pain that we've caused, we feel terrible. And we want to right the situation. We want to do something. We want to put ourselves in service. We want to apologize. We want to make up for it. We want to do something nice for that person to make up for these horrible things that we've did. Psychopaths, narcissists, no. Mm-mm. Have you ever had a cold and you blow your nose into a Kleenex and then you scrunch it up and then you toss it into a wastebasket? I know you've done that. Have you ever walked down the road afterwards and really thought about what you just did to that poor Kleenex and go, oh my God, what did I do to him? I filled him up with the gunk out of my nose and just threw him away like he was worth nothing. I destroyed that Kleenex's life. No, of course you don't, because it's an inanimate object and you don't really care about the emotions or the lives of inanimate objects. And as far as psychopaths and narcissists are concerned, you and I are just like a Kleenex. Okay? We don't really matter. We, as far as they're concerned, our emotions and stuff like that don't really exist. At least not so much to the point that they actually care about it. Not everyone was comfortably openly protesting in public, especially given Trump's executive order last week that approves deployment of, quote, a more robust federal law enforcement presence in Washington. Right, so a police state, and I love the word robust, right? I remember after we had all of these unapproved medicines coming in, and them assuring us that, we had a robust review process. It was very robust. And it's just the language of politics, man. It just sickens me in my brain places and in my heart places and to my gut places at the same time simultaneously. It's how can people in the truth movement not see it, you ask? Well, again, blind to all but themselves, okay? That's why they call it, again, the My Freedom Movement, the My Truth Movement. Whatever the guy who you voted for does, you won't feel guilty about it because as far as you're concerned, as far as your brain is concerned, you're winning, all right? And you don't want to talk to anybody who will, correct you and help you to grow the F up. and stop looking at the world through rose-tinted glasses as though once every couple of years ticking a box of some description is somehow going to save the nation that's been enslaved by bankers for over 100 years. I ticked the right box! We're all safe now! You've got to be kidding me! A 51-year-old woman who represents an NGO, that's non-governmental organisation, and these are the things that work at the United Nations and wind up assisting with all the child trafficking and things of that nature that I was alluding to earlier, you see, said she was wearing a mask, quote, to protect my identity. I think they are using AI and different recognition technologies to out people and then punish them, she added. It's all about loyalty with this administration, and if you're disloyal, you're at risk of losing everything. All right, now, whether or not these leftists are actually outraged and going crazy about this particular thing for any particularly good reason is really a side issue, because, you know how a broken clock is right twice a day? Not entirely dissimilar from that. Now, I wonder if you can talk with somebody, like in terms of a Trump supporter, and get them to wake up to this stuff, because a lot of Trump supporters are people that you would think are on quote-unquote my side of the fence. I was going to say our side of the fence, but I realised that I'm on my own side 100% of the time. Not my truth, not your truth, the truth. That's what I'm about. If something is the truth, regardless of how much it hurts me, regardless of how much it upsets me, I will endeavour to accept it and incorporate that truth into my life. Because joy and happiness is not the point of your existence. It's not the point of mine. I'm trying to find out what the truth is. And once I find it out, I try to share it with other people so that they are not living lives of perpetual delusion, which destroys societies. Right? I don't want society to collapse, as much as I love dystopian sci-fi. Wonderful thing to see on the weekend with your mates, not a wonderful thing to just happen. You see? But a lot of people don't have that. They have this emotional need to be on the winning team. Not a logical need, an emotional need. All right? And that's how you know that they're being mind controlled. And that's the vast majority of the truth. That's the vast majority of all people's, truth movement or not. You're just under mind control. And that's okay. I was under mind control at one point. I remember when I was first voted, when I was 18 years old, voted for the Green Party, which I later found out was actually the Watermelon Party, because they're green on the outside and red on the inside, And I felt bad about my choice later on, and didn't vote for them again. And of course, there's those of you who don't vote at all, and stuff like that. But my belief is that, number one, there's truth to, if you vote in this system, you are giving that system legitimacy and allowing it to continue on. However, there's also truth in the fact that if you don't actually vote, it doesn't actually do anything. The question is, what are you doing the 1,000-odd days between elections? Okay, are you engaging in activism? Are you informing people with a radio show? Are you doing any kind of thing that actually changes the political situation in your country? Okay, if you're not doing any of that, and you think that your entire patriotism wallet is meant to be spent once every couple thousand days or so on ticking a box, you have been educated incorrectly, I'm afraid. Okay? Speaking of educated incorrectly, outgoing parole board chair, why shorter prison sentences fail. Now, he might say, why shorter prison sentences fail to make a profit for the private incarceration companies that live in New Zealand and operate in New Zealand and make money off of imprisoning New Zealanders. Okay? That would be a slightly more accurate statement. The outgoing parole board chair says shorter prison sentences don't work because it exposes offenders to, quote, a university of crime without sufficient rehabilitation. Okay. Well, see, me, I've got what you might think of as claustrophobia. I'm 6'6" without shoes. Okay? So when I'm in a tight space, it can be incredibly stressful to me. And it has taken years. What was I? I was only in a jail cell for 28 hours. That's nothing, you know. I know people who've been in jail for significantly longer periods of time, and it has damaged them much more than my short stint damaged me. But the damage that I went through was quite significant, you know, and because I'm a weaker person, you know, I'm much more emotionally, I don't say less hardened, you know, I'm a little bit fragile. I have abilities and things of that nature which people who are much more hardened than me don't possess, is the thing. And so we all experience a reality differently. But prison in and of itself, like I remember CK, a mate of mine from the years when I was a young activist and I was filming dance parties and stuff like that, dude got sent to prison, you know, for something that he didn't do. He was in there for like 2 freaking years. And it was a long time since I'd seen him. And I saw him, and he looked very different. He felt different. And not a good kind of different. And the kind of, it breaks my heart to see what had happened to this poor guy. And even though that was the case, the reason why he saw me was at Vinny's last hurrah. It was a party that I was throwing before I would potentially be going to jail. And he came there specifically to tell me what jail was like and what I need to do while I'm in there, what I need to prepare for, and give me a big list of things to do. Forms that you need to fill out when you go inside so that you can have permission to call people and so on and so forth. You know, he gave me an extensive list. He wanted to help me and prepare me, you know, because he loved me. And that was something that kind of broke my heart. It's like the people who actually wind up going to jail get so damaged and get damaged, I think, necessarily permanently, just by the experience of being in there, and that's whether or not they've been rightfully or wrongfully convicted. The people who are wrongfully convicted, on the other hand, I met a guy at a festival, and he was telling me, mate, it's destroyed me, Vinny. You know, I can't think. I'm messed up. You know, he didn't say the words messed up, but you can't say these words on radio. And you can tell from the guy that, man, he's really been through it. And it has been absolutely horrific for him. And that's what prison really does to people. And a lot of people who've never experienced the joys of being mishandled by the New Zealand police and court system will never understand what it's like. Anyway, Sir Ron Young, oh my goodness, he's a sir. All right, this is how you know that this person's a bad person. All right, in New Zealand, if you have the words sir or dame in front of your name, it's probably because you're one of the worst people in the country. Okay, in terms of selling out the country itself to globalist interests. Okay, Sir John Key, Dame Jacinda Ardern, Sir Peter Jackson, they all screwed the country up in various ways. Okay, people were like, what, Peter Jackson, the film director, he's a sir? No, yes, he is. Well, what did he do that was so bad, Vinny? Well, you know how you've got employment rights? Okay, holiday pay, set breaks, things like that, overtime. You have employment contracts and you can't just be let go all of a sudden and what have you. Sir Peter Jackson, in order to have the Hobbit films made here, which arguably are not as good as the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, had a meeting with, I believe, John Key and some film executives in the United States, and said that what they needed to do is make everybody a contractor and get rid of employment rights for the entire film industry. So if you're working in the film industry now, you will know that you have to do all your own taxes, you have to do all your own invoices, and you don't get paid overtime, and you don't get holiday pay, and you could be fired just like that, because you got no employment rights. That's what he did to you. That's what Sir Peter Jackson did to you. Okay? And that instance has continued the whole time. What a nasty piece of work. Must get a frickin' knighthood then. Anyway, Sir Ron Young, after nearly 7 years in the role, he told Q&A for people who had prison sentences shorter than 2 to 3 years, the reoffending rate is about 40%. For people who had spent more than 8 years in prison, that dropped to about 10% after rehabilitation and reintegration programs, he said. Because obviously, you know, in order to rehabilitate yourself and become a different and better person, being in jail for much, much, much longer is what helps with that. Or maybe there's a possibility that those people who've been in confinement so long that part of their brains and their independence and their humanity has been damaged to such a point that they're permanently traumatized by the thing, and they can barely even make it out of the house, let alone make it out of the house to go and commit a crime. Right? Maybe that's what the reoffending rate is actually really tied to. Perhaps. I mean, I'm just theorizing here. For people who had spent, what it suggests to me that for those under 2 years, whom we, the parole board, don't see at all, is there has to be a rethink whether or not those sentences are appropriate. Sir Ron said for those with shorter sentences, they spend most of their time in custody being educated in the way of crime. It's kind of like a university of crime. Unless we do something about that, those are the future offenders. Additionally, the Department of Corrections wasn't adequately resourced to deliver rehabilitation and reintegration programs, Sir Ron said. Maybe there's a connection here. Well, we don't have the ability to re-educate and rehabilitate these people because we're not trying to, because they're here for a short period of time. And so instead of actually making the effort to do that with the people who are there for a short period of time and the period of long time, you know, let's just maybe do that all. It should be one of those things. Because why is somebody a quote-unquote offender? Right? I'm a criminal. And that is borne by my convictions. Okay? Have I been rehabilitated? Have I gone out and committed crimes and things of that nature? It's like, well, hold on a second here. What he's talking about is something that's very much a real thing, is that people in prison, my brother called them the dumb criminals, right? It's the dumb criminals that go to prison. But in some cases, it doesn't really matter how intelligent you are. What matters is your experience. And so when a young criminal goes into prison and they meet older criminals who commit the same sort of acts as they do, they can wind up getting a little bit educated about how to do it more effectively and how to not get caught. Right? So all of these hard stories and things of that nature, it's something that's not quite working, is it? And imprisonment was never something that was really designed to work. Right? As far as I'm concerned, prison is a place for people who cannot be rehabilitated, who possess significant personality disorders of a dangerous nature. All right? Ostensibly, it should be more like a wellness camp, and this is what they do in Finland, I believe, is that they send them to an island. And they have their own place on that island, and they cook for themselves. They have a shop, and they interact with other people. I mean, basically, it's kind of like being free. But they're free, but they can't leave the island. until their sentence is up and until they've been satisfied that their habits are now regulated to the point. Because you can train a human being to make good decisions. You can. But sometimes you need a little bit of help in that regard. Because anybody who has been convicted of a crime, there's a significant chance that their daddy was not there for all or part of their formative years. Okay? And the lack of that responsible, masculine example turns you into somebody who doesn't quite respect authority, because that authority was not respectable and wasn't there for you, and you couldn't rely upon it, and you couldn't trust it. Okay? And that's why a lot of people, I think you're something like 9 times more likely to become a convicted criminal if your daddy wasn't there when you were young. All right, that's the New Zealand statistic. It's probably very similar overseas. So the generalized defathering of mankind in general has led to these overarching crime statistics. And of course, once you become a criminal, you can't get rid of that conviction, right? Now, that's even in New Zealand, where we have what's called the Clean Slate Scheme, passed by Nando Tanchos, who's the first Rastafarian New Zealander. And Luna Longshadow's just given us $5. Money wants to flow. 'Tis the nature of it, she says. Thank you so much, Luna. And only one more super chat to go, ladies and gentlemen. Then we've hit our $20 goal for today. Thank you guys so much for contributing. I really appreciate that, man. And of course, if we go over it, I'm not going to be upset. So, here's the thing about the education of the criminal, the quote unquote criminal class, is that what you've got is people with early childhood trauma that they haven't gotten over. That's essentially what makes them criminals, isn't it? All right, that's why I'm a criminal, technically, and probably why any of the rest of us are, because something happened to us that destroyed our ability to kind of respect authority, because authority was not respectful and it was not accountable. Okay, and so therefore we don't necessarily grow up to respect authority in and of itself, do we? Additionally, the Department of he said alternatives to short prison sentences could include a Scandinavian-style model, which I referred to earlier, that placed offenders within a controlled environment in the community. In the case that I was saying was an island. He acknowledged that it would be a super hard sell to victims of crime. The way in which it can be solved, because these are the facts, is we want to do everything to make sure there are no more victims. Now, you can't end crime, can you? There was a small town in, I think it was Texas, I can't remember, it might have been Minnesota. But anyway, they made it mandatory for everybody to have guns. All right, mandatory. If we come into your house and we can't see no guns, boy, you're going to jail. What happened to all the crime statistics at that point? Murders, rapes, suicides, burglaries, home invasions, all of that kind of stuff. It dropped to zero. Not went down, but went to zero. Okay? Because anybody who probably didn't have a very nice upbringing in that town was at least smart enough to know that anytime they went into somebody's house or tried to hurt somebody, that they were going to get shot. And generally, people don't like being shot. It's just one of those things, I don't think I prefer that methodology of punishment. Being shot is, well, it seems a little bit over the top. Maybe a slap over the knuckles with a wet bus ticket would be more my way of being punished. You see, and what they talked about in Switzerland, where the Swiss Army, how they got that Swiss Army knife kind of thing, does everything all in one little thing. They are required to be able to have, and this is every citizen, required to have a submachine gun in their home and have it so well hidden that even the people who trained you how to hide this stuff will come in and inspect your home, try to find it, and can't find it. All right? And there's bunkers everywhere. And if the country is ever invaded, they will blow up all the bridges so that you can't freaking go anywhere in their country. And then they will stage a guerrilla war where they will come out from underground for a moment at a time, blow the living hell out of you when you don't see it coming, and then just disappear back underground. Right? You can't fight an enemy like that. All right? And that's why Switzerland hasn't been invaded. Even during World War II, Hitler's like, oh, I don't think this is a good idea. These people might... the Russians, they don't like it either. Now, in New Zealand, it's a little bit different because we've been, as Ian Wishart noted back in the 2010s, that New Zealand is being demilitarized by successive governments and United Nations movements and things of that nature, so that if world government does take over, there won't be a nation of New Zealand, or any nation in the world really for that matter, with a military that's capable of resisting the world government army, like the world army, as in the whole freaking world's soldiers are coming to your place to kill you, to get you out of power, so that they can make you follow Agenda 21. Right? That's what's happening here. And there's ways of doing this. And free speech is really the cornerstone of this, which segues nicely onto our next article from the Free Speech Union, where a guy is at Albert Park, and that's the park right next to Auckland University, which is a very left-leaning university, of course. Excuse. And he's finding out what students think about compulsory treaty courses. What do you think? And he says, question: compulsory treaty courses are not necessary in some fields of study, yes or no? Okay, so let's say, for instance, you wanted to be an aeronautical engineer, or you want to be a medical doctor, or something like that. Do you need to know about the alleged founding document of New Zealand? I say alleged because if anybody knows any of the works of Martin Dutray and the Littlewood Treaty, which we've discussed on the show and had him on in previous years, will know that it's not actually really the official founding document of this country. However, the whole idea is mind control. Okay, so if everybody's compulsorily designed to have this treaty knowledge, okay, and this is very much a left-wing thing. I say left-wing, but I don't really see if the wings of the same birds are basically the same vulture that's picking your bones clean and shredding your rights like lettuce on a McDonald's hamburger. So if you can compulsorily brainwash everybody to be all like, oh, Te Tiriti, oh, the Maori were such lovely, peace-loving people and stuff like that, we won't really include any of the studies about, cannibalism and murder and rape that was ritualistic, and the fact that they were really into slavery and cutting off people's heads and practicing traditional tattoos on them and then selling the heads, in trading kind of thing. Like, man, these sound like a really dangerous bunch of Stone Age people. It's like, yes, they were. And they were invaded by the most progressive colonization freaking machine that at the time had ever been seen. All right? The British used to come into places and just be like, oh, how do you do? Back in the day. But then they learned after a while that you can manipulate people very, very well with pieces of paper and by giving them blankets and modern technology, nails even, and that Stone Age people love the stuff. They love the modern conveniences and all the real hard work that they had to do on a daily basis just to be able to survive. When they're using the white man's gear, they don't have to do any of that stuff. So they very much appreciate it, and they want to become part of it because they want that stuff. That's why the Māori became very proficient and very good traders, very good sailors and business people and stuff like that, using the technology of the white man. And that is a subsection of all humanity. There is a section of humanity who, when they are given the opportunity to advance as a person, as a culture, by borrowing or being given things from other cultures who have things that they do not, they become better in general, right? And that's what happened. How many Māori are currently engaged in slavery and trading severed heads and eating human flesh today? Probably a lot less than back in the day, wouldn't you think? And the white man is to be thanked for that, to a large degree. More specifically, the Christian white man, who gave you these saviors who tell you how to act and how to be. And there were instances in New Zealand where some Māori who had converted to Christianity were being approached by other ones, warlords, as it were, who wanted to go off and do their old-fashioned thing, kill a whole bunch of people, eat them, stuff like that. And they go to their bro, and he's like, no, we're Christians now. We don't do that kind of thing anymore. Oh, bro, what happened to you? You sold out, bro. And it's like, no. He evolved voluntarily. Okay? And what's happening now is that, man, I could totally get lynched for saying any of that stuff. It's all true. It's all true. And I don't say it with any hate or in any judgment or whatever. This is just archaeology. This is what you do. You look at how cultures were and how they evolved and stuff like that. And what's happening here in New Zealand now, on the other hand, is they're trying to whitewash all of that archaeology, whitewash all of that history, or brownwash, if the case is, to basically give the impression that Māoris were complete victims in the sense of the treaty, even though they were guaranteed all the same rights as British citizens. They'd lived their whole lives not as British citizens, doing their Māori thing, and now they've got all the same rights as anybody who was born in Britain. Okay? That was an extraordinary offer back in the day, because it meant that the British Army was at your back. That meant that the British police officers would help you if somebody committed a crime against you. Not that police officers are terribly nice people in the first place anyway, but I digress. This thing that happens here is about making people believe that there's some kind of perpetual victimhood. Okay, carrying on from our last article about how they don't want there to be any victims anymore. And then what they're doing is they're brainwashing the youth, okay, while they're in their formative years, while they're being educated about all of this, to believe in this perpetual victimization. And in so doing, you can have perpetual reparation. Reparation that goes to the Māori elites, which, being the only Pākehā, that's white person, for lack of a better word, New Zealand journalist to be invited to the Māori's Temple of the Four Winds in Te Kuiti for a hui, that's a meeting, the elders told me, when I asked them, is there a brown elite? Okay, just like there's a white elite, there's Rothschilds, there's Rockefellers and stuff like that. Is there a Māori elite? Because absolutely. Back in the 70s, when he went to, I can't even remember his name now, it might have been Daz or something like that. He went to fight for New Zealand in Vietnam, and when he came back, he was going to go back to his land, and he was going to take the money that he earned as a soldier, and he was going to develop it, and he was going to create a beautiful marae, that's a meeting house. And then when he came back, he realised that not only had his land been stolen, but his relatives, okay, he's part of what's called the Kingitanga, all right? This is the chiefly bloodlines, all right? The heads of all the tribes and stuff like that had been married into by foreigners, all right? Foreign elites who had come to New Zealand specifically to intermarry with the bloodlines of the Māori and then get them together like so. And in so doing, they had this capacity to corrupt the entirety of any of the nobility that existed within Māoridom, and to turn it into this elitist type thing. And this is where we get what we call the treaty industry, the grievance industry. what they want to do is have money coming at them all the time to the elites. And they're not going to give any of that money down to the poorer Māori down the bottom. All right? You got people like Willie Jackson and John Tamahiri, who are talk radio show hosts, members of parliament, respectively. Both of them, by the way. And they are the heads of these quote-unquote Māori trusts. And I find it ironic calling them a trust because they seem to violate the trust of their own peoples, generally speaking. So they go out and they make these claims that terrible things happened to us Māori and blah, 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 and the white man was all bad. Why are you wearing a suit, driving around in an automobile, talking on a cell phone, and living in an insulated home with electricity if it was all bad? Do you want to go back to the way things were? I mean, you could totally do that if you want to, bro. Just freaking ungrateful. And that was the thing that John Ansell, I think it might have been Don Brash or something, he got lambasted because he said that that Māori went from the Stone Age to the Space Age in less than 100 years. And they didn't even say thank you, right? And that was something that got him into big friggin' challenges. Now, Kiwi Radio, my man Ralphie is in the chat room. He's been talking about stuff. Hi, Vinny, listen to you on kiwiradio.nz audio stream. You spoke of prisons earlier. Did you know before 1991, rap music was more poetic than gangster? Yeah, I also knew that the corruption of the music industry to make criminality something that was cool so that young black Americans would wind up getting themselves into criminal activity so that you could pop them into the private prison industry and make money off them from both selling them gangster rap, which encourages the lifestyle of crime, and then when they get involved in the crime, you can make money off them again by incarcerating them at a cost to the taxpayer. Isn't that a great idea? Kiwi Radio goes on to say, in 1991, a secret meeting allegedly changed the trajectory of two powerful industries, rap music and private prisons. Today, rap music dominates the music industry and private prisons thrive en masse. Incarceration, coincidence or part of a larger and sinister relationship? The music industry is dominated by three powerhouses. Over 75% of the entire market is controlled by Universal, Sony and Warner labels, known for endless lawsuits, probably because less people buy their products. And Sunny in SoCal says it sounds like the Amazon business plan. All right, we've only got a couple of minutes left in the show, so I'm going to make this brief. And this is part of the reason why the article of the show and the title of the show, things are bad at Tesla, they're about to get much worse. And that's the thing about this is electric cars, you know, when you have a feeling, you don't know what you know, but you've just got a feeling or something like that, like Detective Quasimodo, he doesn't have any evidence, but he has a hunch. You know, the EV company's sales are tanking in all major markets, and its Chinese rivals are surging. But Tesla's problems are just beginning. Tesla is in a world of hurt. Sales in California, its main market in the US, plummeted 31% in January from a year ago. And it's probably because you're doing that in California, where people will refuse to buy a Tesla because it's too fascist. And so they'll buy a Chinese one because it's just communist enough. Oh man, I love the little hamster wheel that people have got themselves on. 4 minutes left in the broadcast. We've got $5 more, ladies and gentlemen, that we want to raise on the super chat tonight. So if you are in the YouTube chat room, that's the one that we want to do. Well, hopefully we will reach that goal. And I want to thank Amos and Luna Long Shadow and Sunny and SoCal for your donations so far, guys. Thank you so much. Now, I think we don't really have actually enough time to go through this article, so I'll probably get into this one next week. For the time being, I do actually need to plug my sponsors, which I keep forgetting to do. I keep forgetting to plug them. Got HoldenHealthcare.com, emphasis on the care. Now, if you are in New Zealand, preferably in Auckland, and you're suffering from some kind of terrible health ailment that, and you've been through the medical ringer and they've just given you drugs that don't work, and then they give you another drug that doesn't work to help you with the side effects of the other drug that they gave you that didn't work. All right, now that makes you a hard to treat case, which is what Holden Healthcare actually specialises in. I remember I had I had a liver problem a couple of years ago, and David, says to me, Vinny, when you go out drinking, do you drink beer or wine or spirits? I said, yes. And he just cracked up laughing. That's a good answer. But yeah, he told me what was wrong with me. He had this wonderful machine that kind of like scans your whole body, and it reflects light and figures out what your actual general health is. Kind of that. It's like $500 million in development of this machine in order to help you get yourself on track. And I changed my habits. He said, Vinny, you got two choices. You can change or die. And surprisingly enough, maybe unsurprisingly, most people would rather die than change. They would. Isn't that a sad thing to see? So if you'd rather change than die, and you have a health ailment, or you got a loved one who needs their health looked into, wind up getting yourself into HoldenHealthcare.com and sort yourself out. And Chris Young, one of my longest standing sponsors, said Vinny is a criminal because 1, he smoked a plant that caused zero harm to others, and 2, peaceful protest are standing within 2 meters of another person. What a rebel. All right, folks, thank you very much for your time tonight, and we will see you again sometime at the Vinny Eastwood Show.
Gentlemen, I've brought you here to discuss the Eastwood problem.
Yeah, I've been speaking with Jacinda Ardern that we need to eliminate the threat of Vinny Eastwood.
Why do you say Vinny Eastwood when it's clearly Winnie Eastwood? The Vinny Eastwood Show, live Saturday and Sunday at 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Ground Zero Plus.